Hello, I'm Leonard from Philosophy003, and this is my first YouTube assignment. In what has been a disastrous beginning of a new decade for the nation of Haiti, citizens of this earthquake-ravaged country are continuing to struggle with losses of loved ones, shortages of food and water, and increases in disease. These facts are what make one article from the January 21st edition of the Center Daily Times, titled "Life Anew for a Survivor," so inspiring and uplifting for all people concerned with the nation's sorrows. In this article, a member of the Associated Press shares the story of a 23-year-old Haitian named Benito Reveles, who survived a 5-day affair beneath the ruins of his house following the earthquake. Benito was pinned to the earth by a bunk bed that collapsed upon him throughout the tremor, impaling his left thigh and leaving him helplessly trapped, without food, water, or anyone to tend to his wound. With little else to do besides desperately cry out for help, the Haitian silently reflected upon his young, unfulfilling life to that point in time, praying to God for a second chance at living. Miraculously, Benito's prayers were answered when he was discovered by a band of rescuers and freed from his earthy prison on the 5th day. With survivors difficult to find in Haiti's ruinous landscape, the group was thrilled by Benito's rescue, motivating them to carry on and search for others. As for Benito, the only thing that he could do upon reflection of his frightening experience was simply smile and show thankfulness for God's grace. After reading the story, I noticed several similarities between Benito's incredible journey and two assigned readings within my philosophy textbook. The first one, a dialogue with death from the sacred Upanishads of the Hindu religion, was about a boy named Nachiketa who learns from the being known as Death, or Yama, of reincarnation and immortality. Within the dialogue, Death speaks of the differences between the path of goodness and the path of pleasure, confirming that wise men choose goodness over pleasure and that fools choose pleasure through greed and avarice. It is clear to Death that Nachiketa is on the path of goodness, as he decides to ignore promises of kingship and infinite amenities in favor of understanding the nature of death in a person. Death explains that one is destined to take body again in the worlds of creation, until one is able to perceive Brahman, the divine and venerable, within oneself. Once this occurs, one is able to become free from passion and death and become immortal. As Benito was reflecting upon his life and praying throughout the story, he showed tremendous regret for creating enemies because of his desire for money, also causing him to play at the lottery frequently. Having decided to embark on the path of pleasure, Benito vowed to right his wrongs, affirming that he would not waste his second chance at life. Although Benito survived and still carries the same earthly body, his rescue displayed a pseudo-form of reincarnation, for God had granted him another chance at life and at attaining goodness. The second reading, on personal identity, by English philosopher and political figure John Locke, described the nature of personal identity and the roles that consciousness, body, and soul play in determining self. Locke defines a person as a thinking, intelligent being that has reason and reflection, and that can consider itself as the same thinking thing. Locke goes on to explain that consciousness determines personal identity because consciousness accompanies thinking, distinguishing oneself from all other thinking things. Body and soul are considered material and immaterial substances that go towards the making of a man, but do not establish a person as different from other thinking things. For example, if my consciousness were transferred from my body and soul to another's, I would still be Sean, despite having different substances to work with. In Benito's story, his period of reflection and prayer during his experience demonstrates that he is a person with a consciousness that is able to look back on the events in his life, giving him mixed emotions. Because he is conscious of his past actions, Benito does not have to concern himself with the actions of others. If his consciousness were to be adopted by the man who rescued him, however, then he would assume responsibility for Benito's actions and not Benito's body and soul. In short, Benito's recollection of his life shows evidence of his consciousness and uniqueness from all other thinking things.